everyone. Wayne from the CERN Earth and Space Center here. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the largest planet in our solar system, and that is Jupiter. It has tons of moons, lots of interesting features, and a lot of cool stuff for us to take a look at. So without any further ado, let's jump in and see where we can find it in the sky and what it looks like through a telescope. Here we are once again on the campus of Triton College in River Grove, Illinois, here right in front of the CERN Earth and Space Center. We're facing towards the south right about 8 o'clock at night, which is about an hour and a half to 2 hours after sunset. And almost directly towards the south, we'll see a couple of very bright objects. Right over here we have Jupiter, and then next to it, a little bit dimmer, a little bit harder to see, is Saturn. They'll be moving closer together as the year goes on until they reach conjunction in December, where they look like they're right on top of each other. But for now, in this video, we're going to focus on the brighter of the two of those, and that is Jupiter, the largest planet in our solar system. Let's take a look at what it would look like through a telescope. We can zoom in, and just a little bit of a brighter spot there. We also see a couple of other objects around it. And some of those objects are stars, but some of the ones right in here are actually its moons. Now, even with a decent set of binoculars, you can see 4 of Jupiter's moons. We call them the Galilean moons because they were discovered by Galileo way back a long time ago. They're the largest moons of Jupiter, and they're very easy to see. You don't need any special equipment to do that. So you can get some good views of Jupiter through a telescope, but we have a little bit more powerful software that we can use to actually fly to Jupiter, take a look at it, and explore some of those moons for ourselves. Now that we've loaded up our planetarium software, Digistar 6, we can fly out to Jupiter, take a look at it, and some of its many moons for ourselves. So let's do that now. Start to fly out towards Jupiter. It is the largest planet in our solar system, more than twice as massive as all of the other planets put together, but it's the 5th planet away from the Sun. So we'll fly past Mars, through the asteroid belt, and out to Jupiter. As we leave Earth, I want to point out that Jupiter is about 11 times the size of the Earth. You could stretch 11 Earths across its center, and it would just reach from side to side. Jupiter has many moons around it, including the 4 Galilean moons that I had mentioned earlier. It has about 79 moons, and as we come in, we'll see those Galilean moons come up, and we will orbit around the planet Jupiter. And here we can see the orbits of all 79 of those moons. Forms quite a network around the planet Jupiter. And as we come around the planet, we'll see the banded clouds that form its atmosphere. Jupiter's atmosphere is mostly hydrogen and helium atoms, just like our Sun is, but it's not quite big enough to have turned into a star. As we come around, we'll see that nice big red spot, the great red spot of Jupiter. It's actually a giant hurricane that's been going for hundreds of years on the surface of Jupiter. Get rid of all of the Jupiter moon orbits there and take a look at just the 4 Galilean moon orbits. We can see those form sort of a ring structure around Jupiter. And Jupiter does have rings much like Saturn. In fact, all of the gas giants in our solar system have rings. Saturn's are the easiest to see because they're made of ice particles. But the other planets, Jupiter included, has a ring system of dust and dirt. So it doesn't reflect light as much, and it's a bit harder to see. But some of the spacecraft we have sent there have discovered that ring system. And in fact, we have sent quite a few spacecraft to Jupiter. 9 spacecraft had visited totally. 7 just flew by and took some pictures and sent some data back, but 2 have orbited the gas giant, and the most recent of those is Juno, which got to Jupiter in 2016 and has been helping us learn quite a bit about the planet Jupiter. Now, it has its 4 Galilean moons, Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto that go around that planet. And probably the most interesting of those is going to be Europa. And the reason that Europa is so interesting to us as we fly to go visit Europa right now is because it is covered in ice completely. And we think that there might be, underneath the surface of that ice, a liquid water ocean. And we know that from here on Earth, liquid water is a good idea of where life can form. So if there are liquid water oceans underneath the icy surface of Europa, there might be some form of life swimming around in there too. So there are some missions that are being planned to help us take a look into there, maybe drill into the surface at some point, but those are all kind of far off in the future. And as we orbit around Europa, we'll see some of the cracks and scrapes that form in the icy surface. Another interesting moon of Jupiter is going to be Ganymede, and it's big enough to be a planet itself if it were orbiting around the Sun instead of Jupiter. So let's go take a quick look at Ganymede. And we'll see as we begin to orbit around it, it does have a terrestrial surface, a rocky surface with lots of craters and markings on it. Now, being close to Jupiter is kind of a dangerous spot to be in because Jupiter has such strong gravity. It does tend to pull stuff in towards it, and that's why we see a lot of craters and things like that on the surface of some of its moons. Io is the closest moon to Jupiter, so we will fly to and visit Io lastly. Io is a very interesting moon because it is the most volcanic body in our solar system. It has the most volcanic activity. At any given time, there are hundreds of volcanoes active on the surface of Io. And as we fly up to the planet, or to the moon, we will see some of those black marks are actually active volcanoes, and it looks kind of like a rotten egg. And that's interesting because it kind of smells like a rotten egg. Io has a very sulfurous atmosphere, and those volcanoes are spewing out methane and sulfur, and it makes it smell awfully bad. So you don't want to be spending too much time around Io unless you have a very, very solid spacesuit. But that sums up our look at Jupiter and some of its moons. I hope you all enjoyed that look at Jupiter and some of its moons. Be sure to like and subscribe to get more weekly content. And you can also find the Cernan Center on Facebook and our website. Links for those are on our channel page and in the description. Again, my name is Wayne from the Cernan Earth and Space Center at Triton College. Thank you once again for joining us. And remember, get out there and take a look at the real night skies.